The air in Brussels was thick with an electric charge that only occurs when the world's biggest phenomenon arrives in town. Thousands of fans, the indomitable army, had descended upon the city, painting the streets in shades of purple. It was day 1, D1, of BTS's highly anticipated stop in Brussels, and the atmosphere inside the stadium was vibrating, a mixture of palpable excitement, intense loyalty, and the kind of anticipation that makes one's chest tighten. Little did the crowd know that they were not just about to witness a concert, they were about to be part of a moment that would be etched into music history. The night was going according to plan, an impeccable showcase of choreography, vocal precision, and the signature charisma that BTS delivers with effortless grace. Until, suddenly, it didn't. As the lights dimmed and the opening chords of their high-energy set began to roar through the stadium, the roar of the crowd was deafening. Every member of BTS RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook was firing on all cylinders. The production value was astronomical, as expected, but there was a distinct, raw energy radiating from the stage in Brussels that felt different from previous stops on the tour. Jungkook, the golden Maknae, was particularly magnetic. Throughout the first half of the show, he moved with a precision that seemed almost supernatural, hitting every note while maintaining the intense dance sequences that have become a hallmark of the group's live performances. The interaction with the crowd was constant. Jungkook's playful smiles and localized greetings in French had the Brussels audience in the palm of his hand. The chaos began during the transition between the high-octane dance tracks and the more intimate acoustic set. The stage design was meant to facilitate a quick costume change and a shift in tone. However, as the arena lights dimmed to a deep, moody blue, Jungkook did something entirely unscripted. Usually, the transition is a tight, choreographed moment involving technical crews and precise timing. Instead of heading backstage, Jungkook grabbed a wireless microphone, signaled the production team to cut the backing track, and walked to the very edge of the extended stage, the section closest to the fans. The silence that followed was visceral. The crowd, sensing the deviation, went deathly quiet. You could hear a pin drop in a stadium of thousands. Jungkook stood there, looking out into the sea of lightsticks, his chest heaving slightly from the exertion of the previous set. He didn't look tired, he looked intensely focused, perhaps even a bit emotional. Without a band, without a backing track, and without the safety net of the choreographed performance, Jungkook began to sing. He didn't sing one of the polished, radio-ready hits that the crowd expected. Instead, he began a raw, a cappella rendition of a deeply personal ballad that the group had previously only performed in the studio. His voice resonated through the stadium, stripped of all studio production. It was vulnerable, powerful, and utterly haunting. As he reached the crescendo, the rest of the members of BTS, seeing what was happening, slowly gathered around him. They didn't start dancing. They didn't signal the backup dancers. They simply stood behind him, listening, letting his voice carry the weight of the moment. The chaos didn't come from a technical failure, it came from the sheer, overwhelming emotional intensity that flooded the arena. Fans began to weep openly. It wasn't just the beauty of the vocals, it was the breaking of the wall between idol and fan. By choosing to abandon the setlist and share such an unfiltered, vulnerable moment, Jungkook had transformed a massive stadium concert into something that felt like a private conversation. The aftermath of that moment was a flurry of activity. Security personnel were visibly confused, as the carefully timed cues for pyrotechnics and lighting had been disrupted. Backstage, the production team was scrambling to adapt to the unplanned acoustic performance. The chaos was not negative, it was a beautiful, spontaneous combustion of emotion. Social media began to explode within seconds. Fans recording on their phones uploaded clips of the performance, and the hashtag related to the event began trending globally within minutes. The discourse wasn't about choreography or costumes, it was about the authenticity of the moment. Jungkook, having finished the song, simply bowed deeply to the audience, wiped his eyes, and walked off stage, leaving the rest of the group to finish the transition. For the remainder of the concert, the mood had shifted. The rigidity of the performance had vanished, replaced by an organic, flowing energy. The members seemed to feed off the newfound vulnerability, resulting in one of the most passionate performances of their careers. Why did this specific moment cause such a stir? In an industry often criticized for being overly manufactured and strictly controlled, BTS stands out precisely because of moments like this. Jungkook's decision to break the mold in Brussels proved that, despite the global stardom and the immense pressure of their status, they are still fundamentally artists who value the connection with their audience above the perfection of the performance. The chaos on D1 in Brussels became a masterclass in stage presence. It taught the industry a lesson: sometimes, the most memorable parts of a show are the ones you didn't plan for. When an artist trusts their audience enough to show their raw, unvarnished self, the return on that vulnerability is immeasurable. As the final notes of the concert faded, the fans didn't want to leave. They lingered, still processing the raw emotion they had just shared with 7 young men from South Korea. The event in Brussels will likely be discussed for years to come, not because of a technical glitch, but because of a human one. Jungkook didn't just sing a song, he held a mirror up to the connection that defines BTS and ARMY. In that stadium in Brussels, the lines between performer and spectator dissolved. The chaos was, in retrospect, the most beautiful thing that could have happened. It was a reminder that even in the world of high-gloss, high-budget spectacles, there is still room for the human spirit to shine through, unscripted and unapologetic. For those in attendance, D1 of the Brussels concert was not just another date on a tour calendar. It was a memory burned into their consciousness, a moment of pure, chaotic, and beautiful humanity. The immediate aftermath of that night in Brussels was nothing short of a cultural earthquake. By the time the sun rose over the city the following morning, the Brussels incident, as it was quickly dubbed by fans on social media, had transcended the realm of music journalism and entered the sphere of pop culture phenomenon. Music critics and sociologists alike began to weigh in on what exactly had happened. Why did a simple, unscripted vocal performance trigger such a visceral reaction from tens of thousands of people? The answer lies in the concept of curated reality. In the age of social media, where every move of a celebrity is often scrutinized, filtered, and scheduled, the human brain has become adept at detecting artifice. When Jungkook stepped out of the script, he bypassed the cognitive barriers fans usually put up to protect themselves from the reality of the distance between them and their idols. By stripping away the pyrotechnics, the backing dancers, and the pre-recorded arrangements, he wasn't just performing, he was inviting the audience into his internal world. It was a rare moment where the golden Maknae facade, the image of the unstoppable, perfect idol, cracked just enough to reveal the man underneath. That vulnerability is what sparked the hysteria. It made the massive stadium feel small, intimate, and profoundly human. While the audience was lost in the emotion of the moment, the production crew behind the scenes was experiencing a different kind of chaos. Stage management for a BTS concert is a feat of engineering, requiring synchronization down to the millisecond. When the backing track was cut, the stage automation, the lifts, the rotating platforms, and the lighting cues had to be manually overridden in real time. LED technicians later described the atmosphere in the control booth as controlled panic. However, it was this exact lack of polish that saved the moment. If the lights had adjusted too perfectly or if the audio had transitioned seamlessly, it might have felt like a choreographed surprise. Instead, the slight delay in the spotlight focusing on him, the ambient hum of the stadium, and the visible adjustment of the other members created a texture of reality that a director could never replicate. The Brussels effect cast a long shadow over the subsequent shows of the tour. Other cities began to buzz with the rumor that anything could happen at any time. The dynamic between the members also shifted. They seemed to trust each other more in moments of spontaneity. In the following weeks, we saw subtle changes in their performance style. While the choreography remained tight and professional, there was an increased frequency in ad-lib moments, small gestures, changes in vocal delivery, and unrehearsed interactions between the 7 members. They had learned, through the Brussels experience, that the audience was not just looking for a spectacle, they were looking for a connection. For the fans, the chaos served a deeper purpose. Being part of an unscripted moment creates a unique bond among those who were there. It turns a consumer of music into a witness of history. Many fans who were present reported feeling a sense of catharsis. In a world that often demands perfection, seeing an artist, someone held to the highest standard of perfection, choose to be raw and vulnerable allowed the fans to lower their own guards. The tears shed in that stadium were not just for the song, they were for the release of their own personal burdens, mirrored back to them by someone they deeply admired. As the tour progressed and eventually concluded, the Brussels D1 concert remained the focal point of all retrospective discussions. It became the benchmark for what a concert could be. It challenged the industry standard narrative that big-budget tours must be rigid to be successful. Jungkook's choice that night was a masterclass in agency. It reminded the world that the performer is not a prisoner of the production, but the master of it. By choosing to break the flow, he reasserted his humanity in a space designed to celebrate his celebrity. The chaos of Brussels was not a failure of management, it was a triumph of art. It proved that in the end, it is not the lights, the costumes, or the complex dance routines that keep fans coming back for decades. It is the ability of an artist to touch the heart through a medium as simple and ancient as a voice, unadorned and true. As the echoes of that night continue to resonate through the global music community, one thing remains certain. The day the lights dimmed in Brussels, the world of performance art changed forever. It was a reminder that in the midst of the biggest spectacle on earth, the most powerful tool an artist possesses is their own courage to be imperfect.